Welcome to a special edition of Media Live. I'm Dan Ramey, and in studio with us is Mayor Luke Feeney of Chillicothe. Thank you for coming in. And the Honorable Mayor may possibly have a different type of title down the road. You throw your hat into the judge ring.
Yeah, we're going to give it a shot. We, Judge John Street is not seeking re-election. He's been in office 30 years.
That's hard to believe.
It is hard to believe. Yeah, I thought maybe 3 or 4 terms, but a judge's term is 6 years, and he's, I think, completing his 5th 6th-year term. So like many things in life, timing maybe isn't exactly what you thought it would be, but you have to sort of jump when an opportunity is there. And I did the math, and we were talking about age and that sort of thing a little bit before we went live here, and if the next person serves 30 years, the next chance I would get at this seat would be when I'm 75. So I thought maybe this would be a good time to throw my hat in the ring.
It all comes together
right.
in that respect. We're going to talk a little bit more about that and what was discussed at City Council last night in just a moment. This portion of Media Live is brought to you by Hometown Motors Incorporated, and you'll find them on Eastern Avenue in Chillicothe.
As a professional race car driver, I live for speed, power, and performance, on and off the track. That's why I use the Dixie Chopper, the world's fastest lawnmower. Race into your local dealership today and test drive a new Dixie Chopper.
Back with Mayor Feeney, and we discussed John Street's position. He was a city council person before putting his hat into the ring to become judge. You get that inner working of city government, and then suddenly, I want to serve in a different capacity, in a municipal way. In this regard, what drew your attention to it? I mean, you went to law school and everything, right?
Yeah, I went to law school, and I think, the job of mayor I've just loved, honor of a lifetime. And my approach to that job, and even auditor before that, has been to kind of look at it through a different lens, see what the opportunities are, make the most of the job. And in talking to, some friends who are municipal court judges, and thinking about the opportunity in that job, there really are a lot of neat things that you can do. So there are things called special dockets where a municipal court can specifically work with veterans, or a municipal court can specifically work and run a housing docket, or a drug court, and that sort of thing. And so the way I see it is it's an opportunity, like you said, to serve the community, continue my public service, and in a different way. I talked to a judge in a nearby county who said his experience with that municipal court and the ability to work with people every day. For a lot of people, it's their first interaction with the court system, and it can be an intervention point in their lives. And that day-to-day interaction with people, the opportunity to make a difference in a different way for me, something that is scary for me, especially because I love what I'm doing so much now. But there's growth in that, in the nervousness and kind of going out on a limb. And so I'm just excited at what the possibilities are. I think that there is opportunity to really do good things in that court.
When we see an elected official as yourself in a position like that, and you decide to make a change, do you have to step down from the position, or is this, if elected, I step down from the position?
Good question. Yeah. So in the position that I'm in, I don't have to step down. If I were to be fortunate enough to win, then I would start the term in the next year, January 1 of 2026. We're already in 2026 next year. And I would step down at that time. And then my replacement in the mayor's seat would be appointed. And so it kind of depends on what seat somebody's running for. Now, if I am not successful, I will remain mayor, which is also a great place to be. And so, those are definitely factors in the decision. But the opportunity, the timing, especially this type of thing doesn't come around very often, was just right for myself and my family to give it a try.
Yeah. Well, We've enjoyed having you as mayor. There's no question there, but in the same respect, we'd still be happy having you a mayor if this doesn't work out.
I appreciate that.
But if it does work out, we'll do our best to stay away from being in front of your bench. So something to consider.
There you go.
Visiting with Luke Feeney this morning, City Council had its meeting last night. You had some third readings on several issues, many of it dealing with some monies being doled out, but also a tax levy. Mm-hmm. And this is the 0.2% tax levy, which was up for renewal, but there's been a change, and the reason for this change is we just couldn't get it done in time to get it on the primary ballot.
That's correct. Yeah, so people will remember in 2015, the taxpayers passed two levies, income tax levies in the city of Chillicothe for 0.2%. And one of those was for safety services, increasing the funding that goes to safety services. And that was a permanent income tax levy. So once it's on, it stays until maybe it would go back to the voters to actually be removed. The other levy that was passed at the same time was a paving levy, which at the time I was the auditor, and Jack, Mayor Everson, was the mayor. And that levy, as a group, we went forward with City Council, and they put that levy on the ballot as a 10-year levy, which is around here most often the way sometimes you would have property tax levies on, where there's a renewal. You think of maybe the Adam Board or something like that. So we put it on, and the concept at the time was to kind of show this is how much work we'll be able to do in 10 years, and let's come back and revisit in 10 years and kind of prove the need. And so the time for renewal is upon us. If a levy is not passed this year, which could have been in the May primary or it could be in November, that would mean that beginning in 2026, that 0.2% will come off. And so one chance to put it on the ballot was to put it on this spring primary in May. So we put it in front of City Council, and the way the meetings timed out, it just didn't pass by the deadline last week to get it on the primary ballot in May. And so City Council will rework the language to say, let's put it on in November. And then if it passes City Council, it'll be on the ballot in November. And then in essence, it's a renewal. There's 0.2% on now. And then if the voters passed it, nothing would change. It would just keep going as is.
Mm-hmm. So the main crux of what we've done is we just missed a deadline for the May primary.
That's correct.
And so instead of having two shots to try and pass it, you only have one.
That's right. And so say, for example, it didn't pass this November, but the voters wanted to try it again, or City Council wanted to try it again, they could put it back on in the spring of 26, try it again, and then you'd basically have a year where you didn't have that revenue from paving. And so in talking with the auditor, you have to plan for those potential outcomes and think about, okay, how much are we going to spend on paving this summer with the uncertainty of the money being available in the next year. And just, for a ballpark, we'll spend over $1 million annually in street paving. Last year alone, our match for paving Route 50, which was a massive project, and ODOT led that project, but we had a match. Our match for that project was over $500,000. And so that's where the levy money has predominantly been us putting out to bid, road paving, milling, filling, and repairs. Sometimes there's full depth repairs and bigger construction that has to happen. But it also has been very useful for matching money for ODOT projects or projects that have multiple facets to it. So if we're going to do a project that has some street, some sidewalk, some stormwater, that's the basis for that funding as well. We're able to bring in grant money because we've had that core source and really turn voters' dollars. It's kind of a multiplier effect when you're able to go out and get that matching grant money come back in.
And it seems to me that 2015 might have been the most recent time that Western Avenue and Route 50 had been paved prior to what was done last fall.
Yeah, that was, and following 2015, I want to say it was 2018, maybe 2019, there was the big project at Plyley's in Western Avenue as well.
All right. Yeah.
When, that's when the sidewalk was built, there's widening, that whole traffic, that whole intersection changed. And that was another place where we used significant matching dollars. And that was, ODOT has different buckets of money, and that was an ODOT safety project. So because it's a state highway, they recognized that there had been a high number of accidents in that area. And they have, in their funding streams, they have money specifically for safety projects. They targeted that area, and consequently, safety has been improved there.
And still we have that hump on Western Avenue. It seems, I don't know how to get rid of it. I don't know what it is, but it seems like whenever you go through there, you see the big trucks kind of tilt over a little bit, and you just wait for it to be that day when it slides completely over.
Yeah, we've done borings there, and looked at the soil, because the worry there is that if it's a slip coming down the hill, that it would cause a problem. As of right now, we're pretty confident that it is not a slip that is continually making the hump higher. But yeah, I'm with you. We've had many conversations with the city engineer about the hump.
Yeah. But it's something that, you have a city with a hill, run into those things.
That's right.
Absolutely. Ross County Humane Society stands to receive $50,000 from the city. This is a third reading that was on this. Talk about the proposal.
Sure. So the Humane Society, for those that don't know, has been working for several years to build a new facility. And they just do incredible work for the community. And they also work closely with the Ross County Dog Warden. And so the city council over the last couple of years has created a process by which community groups can come in and request money. Before this process, funding requests would kind of have no specific process to happen. And the city really doesn't operate as a United Way, for example. But there are certain programs that I believe city council has sort of understood to be beneficial to the city or to the community that they've decided to help. And so last night at city council approved $50,000 to go to the Humane Society to help them with that facility. And I think the idea is that it's, I won't speak for the council members, but a collective community good that they're supporting. And that will go, hopefully be very helpful to the Humane Society in getting that project complete.
Yeah, I know they're close to it, but they still have yet to reach all of their goal for their monies being raised. But work has begun out there.
That's right.
On Salt Lick Road. Salt Lick? No. Lick Run Road.
Lick Run.
I have licking of things, and you think of dogs, and they like to lick you when they're happy.
That's how we're going to remember that.
So we want them to be happy. So make sure you head out to check that out. But again, the city benefits from the services of Ross County Humane Society.
Yeah, I think that's the concept. I think that, you sometimes find in bigger cities that there are many more programs that the city administers. And that what ends up happening sometimes is that the cities grow very large, not the population, but the actual administration size. And so then in smaller communities, it's been my experience that oftentimes the city by statute in Ohio does not run the dog warden, for example, especially in these smaller communities. The city does not run the dog shelter. But there can be situations where, a community, when it has the financial means, can say that is a benefit to the community that we'd like to support. We just don't want to run our own dog shelter. And I think that the Humane Society clearly supports the county as a whole, regardless of the fact that the facility is in the county. And so, this is something that 10 years ago wouldn't have been considered because of our financial position. But the financial position that we're in now, I think that the city council can make some strategic investments into things like that will support the community.
There were more dollars discussed last night, the One Ohio opioid settlement. I don't know how many dollars were doled out across the Buckeye State, but we get a portion of that.
That's right. We get a portion, and it's a recurring portion on an annual basis. And there's some specifications as to how the money can be spent. And we've had different community groups come through and ask for funding. The Hope Partnership, for example, is probably the one that comes most to mind for me. And the idea is that, communities around the state and around the country sued opioid manufacturers because of the harmful effects that they had on our communities. The communities were successful in those lawsuits, class action lawsuits, and the result was a settlement agreement that is distributing money to communities to help remediate the effects of the opioid epidemic over time. And so City Council then is tasked with deploying those funds in strategic ways to help continue to recover from the impacts of the opioid epidemic. And so it's nice to have a steady flow of income and to be able to strategically invest over time, because we'll be dealing with the aftermath of that epidemic for years.
Yeah, it's still a problem. It's not what it might have been several years back, but in the same respect, if there's one incident, it's a problem.
Yeah, and I think that what we're seeing today is the aftermath or the after effects that we might not readily identify with, a person who is addicted, but it's possible that the children of the person who was addicted, or the child of the person who was born, or the child who was born 6 or 7 years ago is now in school. And so the school district has special circumstances or special needs to work with children, or there's fewer parents at home raising children. And so I think that while we became very aware of the epidemic and the problems associated with it, and there was a tightening of restrictions around dispensaries and that sort of thing when you're talking about pills, there's probably a whole generation in communities like ours that will suffer because of that sort of moment in time where there's very little regulation and lots of problems. And so it will take us a long time to recover, and I don't know that we will ever fully understand the sort of the breadth of the impact that it's had.
Mm-hmm. It's become a generational impact.
Absolutely.
In some fashion.
Absolutely.
There were some other first readings and things of that sort last night in City Council, and I don't want to get to all that because you'll be back to talk about that, I'm sure, before things are done. But anything we've not touched on, you felt needed to be addressed?
No, I think the City Council right now, they're working through a facilities study, looking at sort of the facilities that we are in. The building where we have council meetings is not a great home. It's not a great place for the community to visit. Accessibility there is a problem. The city's main administration building needs a lot of help, and so the City Council is doing some long-term planning there, trying to figure out what the best home is, the best use of these buildings, because oftentimes government can find a better home, and then the private sector can put better use to some of the things that we are occupying currently. The Pepsi building, which we bought, the Pepsi distribution building on East 7th Street, is almost complete, which will mean we will have multiple service crews, water and utility service and Parks and Rec service and street service crews all in one facility, getting out of some of our other buildings. And that will pave the way, particularly the building that is at Riverside and Mulberry will be demolished as a part of that big Appalachian Community Grant project. And so the dominoes are starting to fall. I can remember it feels like yesterday when the city bought that building from the Chillicothe City School District because they didn't need it as their bus garage anymore. And at the time we were thinking, well, that master park plan from the 90s said that should be park space, and someday it'll be park space, so we should jump on this opportunity. And sure enough, fast forward to 2024, we get a grant for $34.5 million. Mm-hmm. And that plan is coming together slowly but surely. So, there's a lot of frustration sometimes because we feel like government moves so slowly, and it does. But it is neat to see I love it when a plan comes together.
Yes. When time finally comes about,
that's right,
we get to see these things fall into place.
That's right. That's
and
exactly
so what will it be like in 2026? We'll find out.
We will find out.
Yeah, just stick around. Mayor, thank you so much for stopping by.
Thanks for having me.
Mayor Luke Feeney on the Mayor's Forum here today on a special edition of Litter Media Live. Thank you to those listening live on Litter Media Radio and for those watching here on Facebook and YouTube as well. And thanks also to Hometown Motors Incorporated, our sponsor for this segment of Litter Media Live.